It's something that once you see, you can't unsee. The more I learned about Bitcoin, I started to realize that it's free will and it's freedom money and it's a choice where you can escape that control system.
It actually improves your survival. If you actually see what's going on and you can rationally talk about how to proceed.
Because that's the big shift about Bitcoin is to actually be okay with realizing that you're wrong.
But with Bitcoin, it allows us to be empowered and get out of that victim mindset because we've got this incredible, powerful force for good on our side.
Because when you learn about Bitcoin, you have to do that. You have to actually question things. And that's a very important skill for kids to have in real life.
That shift out of consumerism and then really figuring out what actually is meaningful is such an incredible realization that Bitcoin really instills in you. You have to be open-minded and adaptable and understand that our world is changing at such a rapid pace.
Bitcoin just defends against that. And I love that.
Bitcoin is just so much bigger than just money. It spills over into your entire soul, your entire life force, and changes your life trajectory and your relationships and the chemicals in your body. Today on The Signal, I'm joined by Staci from Bitcoin Nova. As a hairdresser, she sees firsthand how many people feel stuck, down, and less excited about life. Through Bitcoin, she's found hope, a better way to parent, and a clear view of how broken our system really is. I'm super excited to dive into her story and perspective. Staci, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show. And I'm super happy to have you here on my show. And just getting right into it, you've spoken before about stimulus checks and the government's ability to endlessly print money and how that was what orange pilled you. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was an eye-opening moment for me. It was in 2020, of course. That's when we all received our stimulus checks. And it was something that watching Neil Kashari, okay, I finally remembered his name because I keep reminding people that was the moment. He was the Fed chair, and I remembered seeing him say that they have an endless amount of money to print at the Federal Reserve, sounding like he was trying to reassure people, and it didn't sound like a good thing. When you think about supply and demand and how many more dollars are circulating, it costs more dollars to buy things in the real world. So that was a red flag for me. So I realized that every time we were getting stimulus checks, it was more of this money printing that was going on, and it would reduce the value or the purchasing power of whatever we have in our savings. So that was really my orange pill moment right there. And I just took a deep dive into Bitcoin. I just couldn't stop learning more about it. It was, I want to say, just a hobby or something that I did a little bit throughout the day, but even when night came around and I would be looking at my phone, I would be sharing stories with my husband, and it was a lot of hours put into it, and I couldn't turn back. That's something that once you see, you can't unsee.
So did you go through a phase at the beginning where you were skeptical of Bitcoin? Like it's pretty common for a lot of people to not get it right away and to be skeptical and think it's a scam. Did you have that?
Yeah, I had heard about Bitcoin from, I think 2015 was the first time I really was hearing more about it. We actually had, weirdly enough, a recording. My husband would just sometimes record conversations when me and my friends would get together, my husband's friends. And he had found this recording recently where we were discussing Bitcoin. And one of our friends was actually searching up articles saying that somebody had Bitcoin and now it's worth this much today. And I was just listening in the background. I barely said anything about it. And I'm the one that turned into the biggest Bitcoiner from all of us. But back then, I heard them talking, couldn't grasp what it was or why it has value. And it just seemed like this crazy story that we were just talking about, this digital thing that we just didn't understand. And we just didn't look further because if you think about back in 2015, there wasn't much education. There weren't many podcasts available back then talking about Bitcoin. So that's why what we do now, what you're doing is so important. Sharing your voice and sharing other people's voice and perspectives if people want to find more information, there's more out there for people to learn about it and to learn why it's what it is and why it benefits them. But back then, yeah, we just dismissed it. It wasn't until years later, probably in 2019, I heard my cousin talking about it, and I still didn't really, it didn't matter to me. I just thought it was a gamble. I thought it was just something that people were just trying to think of as a get rich quick thing. I didn't believe, I didn't care about what it was. It didn't matter to me. And I think it's because I thought everything was okay at the time. I thought I'm working, everything's fine. Like we felt comfortable. So I think that's why it didn't occur to me to look into it further or what it is. So when you don't see a problem with your current lifestyle, I think that's why you don't try to look for an answer. And I think part of it was when I heard of digital currencies, I guess I'm not the most spiritual person in the world, but I remember thinking when I used to hear about Bitcoin, it scared me because I used to think of it as this biblical one day you cannot buy or sell unless you have like the mark of the beast idea. I think I just thought
Mhm.
of it as a scary thing. I just thought, what is this thing that's like this new world order kind of idea? And then the more I learned about Bitcoin, I started to realize that it's free will and it's freedom money and it's a choice where you can escape that control system. And if you do think of it in a spiritual way, I guess in my mind is Bitcoin is the good money and CBDCs or some kind of
Mhm.
controlled money would be what that would be referring to if you were to think of it in a biblical sense, where free will is removed and control is imposed. So I just thought of it completely different once I understood what Bitcoin actually was. So I think that was like a subconscious fear I had about it before I understood what it meant. But yeah, it didn't occur to me until I actually started seeing a problem with the stimulus checks.
Yeah, it's scary because it is so easy to dismiss Bitcoin, and it's so
Mhm.
easy to miss it because it can very easily be confused with digital currency and CBDCs, and how do people tell the difference, and how do people distinguish that CBDCs and Bitcoin, even though they're both digital currency, they're actually opposites and they represent opposite things. And it's really scary to see that a lot of people aren't able to distinguish them as opposites and they lump them all together. And then they think of Bitcoin as being bad and then they don't look into it further. But what I love about
Mhm.
your story is that it represents everyone's story, really, is that it's natural to be skeptical of something new and something that you don't quite understand. And
Mhm.
so when people have that natural reaction to it, it's important that they realize that is natural, but they don't stay stuck in that.
Mhm.
Because if you just keep doubling down on your initial impressions, you'll never be open enough to understand what's really going on. It's really important for people to see people like you, people like me, even Michael Saylor, who dismissed it at first, and then now they're just like fully on board. So
Mhm.
that's one of the important messages that I like to put out there, is that just because you have a negative impression at first, don't just double down on that. Be open to it. Listen to these other people that are telling you how good it is and how it's this
Mhm.
incredible gift to humanity to help us prevail over the evil. And so seeing you start spreading that message, just a regular person, is really what inspired me to start spreading this message too, because we really are
Mhm.
in this crazy battle. Humanity's in this incredible battle right now between good and evil. It's a spiritual battle between good and evil, and
Yeah, I
it.
love that you bring
Yeah.
that up. Because of how it ties in with my early thoughts about it, but because it ties in with my skepticism and thinking of it now as a spiritual battle ties in exactly with my initial fears of why I
Mhm.
didn't think it would be something I wanted to look into. But that's why it is so important to realize or actually look in the mirror and actually look at yourself and think, why do I see a problem with the world? And if you do see a problem with the world, instead of just thinking that there's nothing you can do about it and you can't fight this battle and you are stuck in a system that is hurting you and is controlling you and is an evil system, corrupt, destroys lives, causes wars, all the stuff that fiat benefits and it just creates. It is literally good versus evil. And if you don't stop and look at that and try to think about why the world is the way it is and what's the root cause of that, I think you have to actually have an open mind and you have to have to admit that you're wrong. And I think
Mm,
that's hard for a lot of people because that's what's so the big shift about Bitcoin is to actually be okay with realizing that you're wrong. Because
mm,
most people, it's very hard to come to grips with things that you consider normal or people you believe or institutions you believe that have you in their best interest and they actually don't. It's hard to want to accept that. I think most
yeah.
people might even know that there's an issue, but they're just afraid to admit that
Mm.
they believe something that they've been lied to. So it's a hard thing to accept.
Yeah, and what you mentioned about people not being able to see it until they're personally affected or until they start to see the problem, that's a silver lining in all the chaos that's going on right now, is that hopefully it will open up people's eyes more. Whereas before they could continue to ignore it, but as things kind of devolve in our world, it's getting harder and harder for people to ignore the problems that are going on. And a lot of the problems are caused by this fiat system and kind of the evil forces that are behind the fiat system.
Mhm.
And what you and I are doing is we're just sharing the good news that we've got this good thing that is allowing us to fight that evil. Whereas before
Mhm.
we thought we were just there's nothing we could do, the world is just how it is. But with Bitcoin, it allows us to be empowered and get out of that victim mindset because we've got this incredible powerful force for good on our side. And if you're
Mhm.
an optimist and you believe that good prevails over evil, then all you have to do is just align with Bitcoin and then just enjoy the ride.
Yeah. And it really is funny that you say that as well, because thinking of superhero stories or fairy tales or something, it's always good prevailing over evil. It's never like the story ends and evil wins. And then those are fictional, they're not real stories. But when you think of Satoshi and what he did and how he left, and I think of that as a real life superhero, it makes you realize that all those stories you heard, and this is a real story, and he is like a superhero. So it is good winning over evil. It
Yeah.
will prevail, and it's actually a real story. It's these fictional stories coming to life.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. It's almost like our world is a comic book. We're living in this comic book and with Satoshi as the hero and
Yeah.
we're the people rising up against these evil forces that have held us down for so long.
Mhm.
The incredible thing too is that we can do it in a peaceful way. How brilliant is that? Normally when you're trying to overcome evil, there's violence and there's a lot of uprising, but here we can do it in a peaceful way. And I don't
Mhm.
think there's ever been anything like that before.
Yeah, it's when people say what is Bitcoin backed by, what does it create? What does it give you? It's backed by energy, but the fact that this immense amount of energy globally doesn't allow anybody to change this system. Not Satoshi, not anybody at this point. Like nobody could change it. It's impossible, really. And that is instead of swords and instead of guns or any kind of thing that you would normally attack others with, instead we just have this impenetrable shield. So when we're fighting against this evil, we're not doing it in a harming sort of way. We're just defending ourselves and we're combined, like all of us as a global network are shielding ourselves from the evil. So it's like we're
Yeah.
in this bubble that Satoshi gave us.
Yeah, and when I talk about evil, I think it's an important realization I had is that it's important not to be like we're good and they're evil. The evil is in all of us. And so whenever you have a man-made system, the evil part of humanity is going to eventually come out and the greed will come out and if don't have a perfectly designed system, then eventually that greed and the evil parts of mankind will come out, and the ones who have the power will want to keep that power and keep the other people in submission. So the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that it recognizes this evil in man and developed
Hmm.
a system that kind of allows the evil to stay in check and
Yes.
it alchemizes that evil into cooperation. And it's yeah, as I'm saying this, it's
I
just
love
blowing my
that.
mind.
I know. I just think it's incredible because, yeah, it's not like we're saying Bitcoiners are perfect and nobody, or people that don't understand Bitcoin are evil or they just don't
Yeah.
understand and it's because we know that it's in every person and because that's why we appreciate what Satoshi did and why he is a hero because the way he walked away and gave up power that he could have had and the greed that would have consumed him for whatever reasons he left and hasn't touched any of the mined coins that he earned is At this point, that the fact that he hasn't touched it, you figure he's not coming back or he lost the keys or whatever. But it's just crazy to think because even Satoshi knew early on that this greed would be powerful. And it's not, I don't think he or whoever Satoshi was would, they knew that they would probably be affected by this. And I sometimes wonder if either he's not around anymore or purposely gave up those keys because he knew the temptation would be too strong. And with the fiat system, that's the thing. It's not like people in the fiat system are evil, but the incentives and the, I guess, the politics and the connections that people have, it's almost like this you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Like you need to actually, in order to get ahead in life, you need to say yes to things you normally wouldn't say yes to. So it's like you get corrupted. And when the people that have access to the money printer, it's so easy to just, if you have the power to do it, you will. The temptation is strong. So it's not like you fault people. You just know that everybody has this in them, but Bitcoin just defends against that. And I love that that's how you said it too, is just it was built in that way.
Yeah. And so once you had this realization and it started to become a bigger part of your life, how did your friends and your family react when you started talking about Bitcoin?
I think that my husband reacted very well to it. He understood it. He realized that when I see something that I'm very interested in, I do my research and he saw my passion and why I was so excited about it. And that made sense to him. He doesn't completely deep dive into it himself, but he trusts what I tell him and that I've done the work. And he knows how much I believe in it and why, because I just relay all the information to him. So he was great. Our friends, my one good friend understood it too. He still understands it. One of our best friends, because we hang out a lot together. So we would talk about these things pretty often. And my sister, my mom, they get it. But other people in my family, they just, it, I just stopped talking about it with family because they know that we've been interested in Bitcoin for a few years now. And I just wait. If people want to bring it up to me, I bring it up or I talk about it with them if they have questions. But now that people know I've started a podcast, they're happy. They're thinking, oh, she's doing a good thing. But I don't know how many people are actually learning something from it or watching it that I know in
Mm.
real life. I think they're still stuck in that mode where they don't want to admit that they were wrong about something. So it's interesting to see. But a couple years ago, I just remember going to a family barbecue and one of my family members said something about buying fake Bitcoins on Amazon, like those little actual physical coins, and trying to tell me, I think around the time Bitcoin was around 50,000 or something, trying to tell me that those coins would have more value than Bitcoin. And I just didn't even bother. I'm like, I cannot talk right now. I just don't want to get into it because I think when people, you can answer questions if somebody is open-minded, I think, but and that's where I'm at now. If someone knows, they know I'm doing the podcast, everyone that I know in real life knows this. If they have questions for me, I'm here. I'll answer any questions you have. But I don't go around trying to convince anybody anymore just because you have to be open to it. You have to actually do a little bit of work first and try to find out something about it. And then if you have questions, you can ask someone else. But yeah, it's not to me, it's hard when you see that they haven't even thought about why this is something that they should learn about more. So I just wait for my opportunity. I wait for people who have curiosity and talk to them when they feel ready.
Because this has really just profoundly changed your entire worldview, and people that haven't had that same shift are stuck in their old version, has that caused any friction in your relationships?
Friction in my relationships? I don't think so because I'm a weird person. I'm not I'm a social person. I'm a hairdresser like you said before and I'm very social. I talk to people on my podcast. I talk to people in real life at work all day. So I do love I'm not a socially awkward person, but I also am very I love learning and I love educating myself on things. So I don't have a ton of girlfriends in real life. I'm not going out all the time having friction like type of relationships with people because I'm one of those people that thinks of myself as like a nerd. Like I'm just studying a lot and I'm in my own little world. And So yeah, to me, it's if people in my life want to know more, I'm here, but I'm not worried about people in my life that actually they don't have to agree with it. I just think if they don't agree with it, we just don't fight about it. I think the more friction in my life that I notice is political friction. And I think that's something that I'm completely not interested in. I think that people see that. I think they see when you're a Bitcoiner, you don't engage in political controversy or media narratives so much. And I think that just freaks people out sometimes when they're so hyped up about something that's happening in the world. So whoever I am interacting with, friends, usually it's like a bunch of my husband's friends or couples that we hang out together, if anything. But I don't really care about that stuff. I don't engage
Mhm.
anymore. I used to back during COVID, back when I found out about Bitcoin, I did get, I see myself get sucked into trending news stories and stuff like that, but I prefer to avoid it. So I think people notice that I'm just not
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, I've heard you talk recently on some of your recent podcasts about this idea of the uniparty and how that's really hit you hard. And it's been a
Mhm.
kind of a big realization for you,
Yeah.
realizing that both political parties are really just two sides of the same coin. Well, how
Mhm.
has Bitcoin given you this new perspective on politics and the government?
Yeah, so I think even before I've heard the main, I think it was Elon calling it a uniparty, and that was really, I think, good to hear from a big voice like his so that other people could see it. But since I found out about Bitcoin and finding out about the Federal Reserve and the money printing, it's almost I understand that whoever's in charge or whichever political party is in charge or whichever president we have, this is going to continue. And that's saying nothing stops this train. Like inflation is going to continue. And it doesn't matter who's president, but people blame it on the previous president always, or they say the reason things are like this is because this person did it, or they just like to point fingers. But it doesn't matter. Really, I think Bitcoin just made me realize that it doesn't matter red or blue in the US, like who is president is it's really more about the Federal Reserve that even the US president doesn't control. So I think that's what people don't realize. There's these cycles that the Federal Reserve goes through and they make the rules and I think that politics tries to control these things, but it's really just that's the root of the problem. Then I think people ignore the root cause of a lot of these issues and they just stay on the surface, fighting amongst red and blue. So they just don't look deeper than that. And I think if you just looked a little deeper and saw the problems with the money and the money printing, it happens from both sides.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how the everyone is just so caught up in this left first, and it's really just a huge distraction from this much bigger issue, which is the money printing. And when you say that, people it just goes over people's heads. They don't want to look into it, or they want to just make it sound like you're just a conspiracy theorist. But they want to stay trapped in their left first. And it's such an incredible thing how Bitcoin allows you to kind of transcend these issues that you'd normally get so caught up in, and it's such a waste of your energy and your time. So Bitcoin
Yeah.
allows you to transcend that and really focus on what really matters.
Yeah. It's so sad because, and I know so many people, you think that that would have died down a little bit, but so many people are still so focused on believing they're right about one thing or the other. And it is sad that it's a waste of time, but you could be doing so many other things with your time and your energy. But yeah, seeing that this, even recently, when I heard a story about the Federal Reserve abandoning their 2% inflation target, I don't know if you heard that,
No,
but
I didn't.
I was thinking you didn't hear it either.
No.
Yeah, it just happened recently, I think in the last week or two. And I thought that was really big news, right? Like for the Federal Reserve, who Jerome Powell has been so hawkish and saying we need to control inflation, we need to get back to 2%. That's been the narrative all this time. And
Mm.
all of a sudden they abandoned this and I hadn't heard about it. So I just started thinking about the narratives, about the media, what was going on in the media in the last 2 weeks that I missed this. Because I think as a Bitcoiner, we would have really paid attention to this news
Hmm.
story. This would have been something that we would have actually been very interested in. Why now and why is this happening? Because they know that they can't control inflation. They know nothing
Right.
stops this train. They know that they're going to have to print more money to keep up with the interest rates of the debt and the national debt in general. But why I just thought it was interesting how I missed this and how you missed this. And what was in our face during that time, or what was the manipulation or something that was
Hmm.
trying to get us to ignore or to miss this news story that we would find pretty interesting.
Yeah, that idea is really scary about all the information we get is really so filtered, and what we get is largely determined by people really high up. They only tell us what they want us to know. And that's what the internet really helped out a lot with, is decentralizing this knowledge and allowing us to learn about things that we otherwise would have no way of knowing.
Mhm.
But even with the internet, there's still so many controls in place that's still limiting our access to information. And
Mhm.
that is a really scary idea.
Yeah, and I
It,
wouldn't have heard this story from, I didn't hear it on the news. I didn't notice it on X. After I
Mhm.
verified it for myself, I did check and it was a story. It was actually something that was out there. I didn't come across it. Nobody I knew shared it. Maybe I had been busy that week. Maybe I missed
Mhm.
it, but I just thought it was kind of wild because I did actually hear about it from my first local in-person Bitcoin meetup. And of course, the people that mentioned it were the Bitcoiners. So I heard about it from them and I was shocked because I'm like, how did I miss that? That seems like it would have been something everyone's talking about in Bitcoin. Like the Fed abandoned that target. That's something they've been trying to get back to and making it seem like this is a real number. When in fact the number you also realize is made up because that number I accidentally pressed SOS on my watch, sorry. But this number is made up because they act, oh, inflation's too high, but it would be much higher if they included things that people spend money on every day, like food and shelter and energy. I think they remove a lot of these things from their data. So it's manipulated. It should be much
Mhm.
higher in general, but they try to remove these things to make it seem like it's getting closer to 2% like they want, but now they're just completely abandoning it. So I thought that was just crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you wouldn't have learned about this unless you had gone to your local meetup and talked to other Bitcoiners.
Yeah.
And I'm just realizing that now, the value of the Bitcoin community, it's so much more than just realizing this problem with the money and moving your money into this harder money and protecting your future. It's so much more than that. These Bitcoiners are tapped into the signal in the world, and they're able to see through the noise. And that is
Mhm.
so invaluable. And so they were able to see this signal and pass it on to you. So I would encourage everyone to go to their local Bitcoin meetup, because people, Bitcoiners, are tapped into the truth. And
Mhm.
it's so easy to miss the truth in this world where we're just flooded with all this noise. But to
Mhm.
have all these other Bitcoiners who can be like antennas and figure out the signal and the truth, and then you can share your ideas. It's such an incredible way to go through life, having all these people and being aware of what's really going
Mhm.
on, versus just walking through the world in this haze and believing all the lies and so much
Right.
noise, not being able to distinguish what's real and what's not.
Yeah. And it was so different because I know that if I would have been at any other gathering with non-Bitcoiners, it wouldn't have been a topic that anyone would have brought up. And even hearing about that topic, it's not that everyone was running around freaking out about it. We just knew that's why we get Bitcoin. That's why we do this. And we're not worried about it. We find it very interesting that something that we knew all along is something that they pretty much admit defeat. They're admitting defeat against
Hmm.
inflation, and it's like we knew that, but it was just very interesting that was brought up, but the conversation the rest of the time together wasn't aggressive or like how it is around people who don't understand Bitcoin, where it is very polarized thoughts and
Right.
ideas and stuff like that. Or you don't have to tiptoe around what you're saying because you don't know if somebody's a Democrat or
Hmm.
Republican. You're free to say the wrong thing around regular people
Right.
because that's what they're focused on. So it was very relaxed. It was a nice get together. And yes, that's where I found a lot of people from the Orange Pill app, and I would encourage people to use it to see if there's any local meetups near them. And I guess a lot of people sometimes I would see meetups and I wouldn't go to them because I saw only one or two people attending, so I thought I'd be the only person showing up with one other person, and I thought that'd be weird. But I found out from those people that I was with the other day that a lot of people don't RSVP to these events. So
Hmm.
they just show up anyway. So there could
Hmm.
be 10 people, there could be 40 people. So it's more than you think it is. So if you see a meetup near you, don't be afraid to go because you see that there's only one or two people. It's actually just people that don't say they're going yet.
Yeah. And this concept just made me realize that when you are around Bitcoiners and when you're able to talk about the truth of what's going on, it actually improves your survival. If you actually see what's going on and you can rationally talk about how to proceed, you can navigate the challenges and the dangers in the world better than if for one, if you don't see it, you're more at risk. And then number two, if you can't talk about it rationally and figure out a good way to navigate the issues, then you're also at increased risk. But if you can see things clearly and talk about things rationally, then you can navigate the world with improved survival. So I never thought about that concept, but it's very true. And it also ties into my next question about Bitcoin and parenting. So you've said that Bitcoin has made you a better parent. And I can only imagine that a Bitcoin parent is going to prepare their kid for the future better than a non-Bitcoiner. Can you share how it has changed your mindset about raising kids and preparing them for the future?
Yeah, I think that one of the main things is critical thinking, how important it is for kids to have critical thinking skills. Because when you learn about Bitcoin, you have to do that. You have to actually question things. And that's a very important skill for kids to have in real life. And also just seeing that their parents are doing things, even like me starting a podcast, even like my husband, like whatever he's doing, that's he's got a singing career that he does on the side and he's doing great with that. And I think just seeing their parents take risks or try new things or just seeing that I'm the way that I'm questioning and they know that I understand Bitcoin and they understand it for the most part. I think that your kids seeing you do things and starting the podcast and seeing it go the way it is, it shows them that you can have an idea and you can make a difference and you can help others. So just not to just be afraid of change and actually trying new things. That's some of it. And then also the proof of work aspect of the principles of Bitcoin. I have a tickle in my throat, sorry. So the principles of Bitcoin and the proof of work, it's a lot of people, they just think about putting their kids into a million activities and not thinking about how important it is for a kid to know how to do simple tasks around the house or help out with the household or how it makes them feel good to learn to do something that is helping the rest of the people in the house. We like to teach our kids that proof of work and how it makes you feel good that you're contributing to something. That's another thing. And also saving money. A lot of parents tell their kids to save money and saving money doesn't work. So my kids know that. My kids know that we don't just put their cash unless they know they're going to spend it immediately on something. But it's not like we we want them to just save money in their room in a piggy bank or just hold it in a wallet somewhere and even in a bank account. What's the point of just taking the money and putting it in your bank account? We don't teach them that since we found out about Bitcoin. So actually, my oldest son, he has a moon wallet that we tell him that even if you get money for your birthday, we can just takes a portion of it from you, buy the Bitcoin and just send it to your moon wallet so you can see that grow. And that way he could see it. He could see that it's gaining value. He could see it growing. And that's how we teach them to save money. It's like Bitcoin is saving money. It's not just putting it in a bank account, letting it sit while it loses purchasing power year to year or month to month, actually.
Yeah. And so how has Bitcoin changed the way you talk about the future with your kids?
It's just they see a more hopeful and less stressed household. I think
Mhm.
because we do have hope for the future. I think that if you think about people that are stressed out about inflation and working 2 to 3 jobs or just trying to make ends meet, I would think that's really hard on the family for kids to see their parents argue about finances or look at their parents that look stressed and exhausted and tired. But when you know that you're doing something with your hard-earned money, that you're putting it somewhere where it can't be stolen, it's a happier household. You know that there is hope. The parents have hope. So it's not the same stress level that the kids are around. But yeah, I think the future, they know that they don't have to worry, I think, already. Even though it's not like we haven't had Bitcoin for years and we have so much Bitcoin. We started in 2020 and we didn't understand it fully at the time. We just dollar cost averaged into it. But still, they have the idea where they know that's where we save money and it's a good place to save money. So I think that they know that the future is bright. Where I wonder if
Mhm.
fiat families don't have that same outlook. And that's sad and it's scary. But that's why I think the Orange Pill app, if anyone comes across this episode that isn't a Bitcoiner, you don't have to be into Bitcoin yet to get the Orange Pill app. You can actually go to a Bitcoin meetup. And if you want to learn about Bitcoin, you could just talk to Bitcoiners, see how they perceive life, see how they
Mhm.
just to hang out with Bitcoin people and see what they're like and see you can observe their their behavior and learn what they know because we love talking about it. It's like our favorite thing
Mhm.
to talk about with anybody. So I think if somebody were to go to a Bitcoin meetup that's not yet into Bitcoin, it would be beneficial.
Yeah, what you're talking about, that difference between the feeling of despair versus the feeling of hope, is huge. It really changes everything for a person. And I see it
Mhm.
in my job too, where because I store my life force in Bitcoin, I have so much hope for the future. Whereas all my colleagues, they're making the exact same amount of fiat money as me, but because they're not putting in Bitcoin, they don't have that hope. They are stuck in that feeling of despair, of knowing that they're going to just have to keep grinding and there's no end in sight for this fiat hamster wheel. Two people making the exact same amount of money have completely different mindsets because of Bitcoin. That is huge, just knowing that you can think about the future and not stress and have actually have hope instead of despair. And so that's a beautiful thing that you have been able to pass that down to your kids as well.
Mhm.
You,
That's
yeah.
crazy. Go ahead.
Yeah, when they walk through the world with hope and despair, it changes the way they see everything. It changes their path forward. It just opens up the
Right.
world with unlimited possibilities as opposed to being
Yeah.
so confined and stuck.
Yeah, you think about that because you're right. It changes their trajectory
Yeah.
and they're from based on their mindset from a young age. Because so many people talk about, even as adults, when they talk about going to therapy, and always the
Mhm.
idea of childhood trauma comes up and how their parents were towards each other and what they grew up with and fear that they grew up with. And that's why I think people don't like talking about money much because when they sometimes growing up it could be a very touchy subject. So they like to ignore money because maybe it caused problems in their family. But yeah, the childhood trauma that can come with that. So when you grow up in a household with that's not polluted by greed and the fiat mindset, it could change their life. It could change how they grow up. And even when it comes to the consumerism of people who are in fiat world, I think they we try to teach our kids that it's not the things you have or having more stuff or keep showing off for people how much stuff you do have. It's more about the time you spend with people and have we love to spend time together as a family and do things together. And we try not to teach them that anything you ask for, that'll make you happy. Let's buy it for you to keep you happy because that's not what makes you happy. That's filling a void that you have that gives
Mhm.
you that temporary dopamine fix of I just got something new and then you're clearing out your house and donating things because 2 months later you don't even care about those things. So it's showing them that what's important because it's that short term, what's going to fill that void, make you feel happy, and it doesn't last. So what lasts is actually just the connections you make in life and the time you spend with people. So I think that's another thing we try to teach the kids too.
Yeah, that shift out of consumerism and then really figuring out what actually is meaningful is
Mhm.
such an incredible realization that Bitcoin kind of just really instills in you. And it's one of the most important effects that Bitcoin has on people. And so you're in such a unique position as a hairdresser because you talk with people from all walks of life. And you've talked recently about how you've been noticing people feeling more stuck, more depressed, and less excited about life over the last
Mhm.
couple of years. So why do you think this is? And how does it relate to Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a huge change. I've been doing hair
Mhm.
since I was 18 years old. So I've seen a lot of changes since from, so I'm 41 now. So I've been doing hair a long time. And yeah, it used to be when I first started doing hair, it was people constantly going to parties and shopping and just going out all the time. It was just everyone had not just on a Saturday night, it was Friday nights, all so many different days. Sundays there were parties. We'd always have to do hair for more events, bigger weddings,
Mhm.
all this stuff. So I just used to hear people talk about all the things that they're doing and all the fun they're going to have. So I think fiat and inflation has just destroyed the quality of life that people are enjoying because it's too expensive to go out. So when people come in for their hair, I even notice they wait much longer before they come in, more, longer than they used to. They wait sometimes an extra couple months to come in to get something done because they don't have anywhere that they're going. Let's say if you had
Mm.
an event or if you had a special party, you would come in to do it because you have somewhere that you're going, you want to look nice. But most of the time, people don't have anywhere that they're going lately. It's just so much less often. So they're like, I don't care how I look. I'm not going to see anybody, or what do I have to look nice for? I'm not even going out. Most people just, they try to eat at home more. Even going out to a family dinner used to be a lot more of a regular thing for families. And now they're just, it's a rare occurrence. People, so when they do come in, it's usually, there's not any fancy styling going on. It's, oh, I'm just going
Mhm.
home after this to clean. It's like nobody really has, there are still parties, but it's just so much less. And I think that relates to Bitcoin because people see that their money doesn't take them as far. The inflation has taken away their purchasing power. They can't get as much with their hard-earned money that they used to get. And you see it in the occurrence of their appointments, it's dropped, and you see it in what they're doing for the weekend, their vacations they're going on. So yeah, I could see that huge shift.
Yeah, that huge shift is crazy to hear you talk about it like that because I think everyone can feel it. We can all feel it. And you're right there. You hear it and you see it every day. And
Mhm.
that's why us Bitcoiners are so confident that we're on the right track with Bitcoin and we can
Yeah, and
see that. Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
just younger people that are having this
yeah.
issue. It's not just people that don't have really good jobs. It's people from all different parts of life and different
Hmm.
economic classes. There's people that I know they have really good jobs and they are also cutting back on things. So it's like people feel it from all different ranges of life that
Hmm.
they're in. And then you have parents who are sending their kids to college and it's now they're strapped because even though they used to make very good money, they have now kids in college and college is so expensive and they're struggling. So it's very crazy to see that. It's very and it's crazy also that so many people that are in this position that are seeing these changes have not yet tried to look for the root cause of that problem yet. And that's what surprises me. I think when you
Hmm.
see that many people in that situation and they haven't yet started to wonder why this is happening, why inflation has caused them so much hardship. And that's why I do start when they do start complaining about things like that or how things are so expensive. It's usually groceries are so expensive where it starts off, but that's why we start talking about Bitcoin. And there are not that many people that know about Bitcoin that come in. It's literally very rare that anyone
Hmm.
understands Bitcoin at all when I talk to them about it. But they are happy that I did. By the time they leave, they're actually happy. They now I have the podcast I could share with them and they're excited that I'm doing something like this. They want to learn and they're actually thanking me because they had no idea what inflation was. Like people think it's just something that is normal in life and that's going to continue and they don't know that there's an answer like we were saying before.
Yeah, it is really crazy to think that people aren't looking at the root cause of it. But then it's also not crazy
Mhm.
too, because we've essentially been indoctrinated into this fiat way of thinking, and it's been a lifetime of conditioning telling us to not look for the root cause and to gaslight us into believing other things. And
Mhm.
you see even really smart people like Michael Saylor not really understanding the root cause until 2020, essentially. This
Mhm.
billionaire who has this business and is really connected into the financial world, he didn't even really see how what the root cause really was. Because we've seen it, it's hard for us to think of people not seeing it still, but that was just us not that long ago.
Yeah.
And that's
I
why
know.
you and I are doing what we're doing so that we can just help other people see what we're seeing because the Bitcoin
Yeah.
really is the way out of what you're describing. All of that people feeling
Mhm.
stuck and depressed and less excited about life. There really is no other
Mhm.
solution other than Bitcoin, other than switching
Right.
over into this parallel Bitcoin system.
Yeah. And that's why I think when people have that mentality, like all of us did, or you and I did not too long ago, like Michael Saylor did, or like our parents did, I think it's because the way you are conditioned and the way you are brought up, I think about my grandparents, so how my parents would say that my grandparents worked simple jobs, they saved money, they were frugal, they would try to save money so their kids would have something growing up. And it worked back then. You were able
Hmm.
to save money and provide for your family when they grew up. So somebody in my parents' generation, my grandparents were able to help them if they needed something. And that's what they thought you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to not spend too much money. You're supposed to save money. but you can't really save money. It's not the same as
Hmm.
when my grandparents were around. Money has changed. They've inflated it. It's worth so much less. It's not the same world our grandparents lived in. So it's not possible to do the same things. And I think people just think, well, they did it. I should work harder. I should be
Hmm.
able to do those things. Life is just more expensive now because things cost more. We have too many more luxuries. But really, that's just the excuses. It's because money is broken and it wasn't broken so much back then before they took it off the gold standard. So it's a whole different world, and you're trying to fight against something that is not something that my grandparents fought against.
Yeah, I think our brains are just not really wired to understand that our world is different now. We're in a completely different world, and the things that applied a few years ago or 30 years ago just don't apply. Our brains are used to being able to fall back on what happened before is likely what's going to be happening in the future and make decisions
Hmm.
based on that. But now
Right.
we're in this whole world where our entire world going forward is going to be completely different than before. You can't rely on the things that you relied on in the past. You have to be open minded and adaptable and understand that our world is changing at such a rapid pace.
And I think because the world is changing at such a rapid pace, that's why Bitcoin is such a shift in the world. It's a new protocol, it's a new way to save money.
Mm.
It's something that when my grandkids will be here in the future, they're going to look back and say, my parents saved money in Bitcoin, and that was the shift. And we still save money in Bitcoin because that's how we do things from now on. I don't think it's going to be like in 30 years, oh, they used to save money in Bitcoin, but now there's something new. It's like Bitcoin is the thing
Mhm.
that fixed it. And grandkids and great grandkids are going to say that they still do the same thing because it's this new system that actually fixed the problem that nobody could figure out how to fix.
Yeah, I saw something recently that said the reason Bitcoin is so hard to understand is because the idea is just so big. The idea is just too big for us to wrap our heads around. Our brains just aren't
Hmm.
wired to understand something so big and such a paradigm shift.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
and
kind of
it's
what we're up against.
that's why
Yeah.
it's that idea of exponential growth and
Yeah.
the price of tomorrow. And when people read Jeff Booth's book, it's the idea that the people that see Bitcoin now think that they're too late to it, but it's
Mhm.
just the beginning, and it's a paradigm shift. It's the exponential growth that we haven't even really started to see completely unfold yet. We're still early in
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
So I think just trying to wrap your head around that is still hard for us who understand Bitcoin. So for people who don't understand it, it's hard to imagine that they even believe it could go any higher in price than it is
Mhm.
now, but it will.
Yeah. So what has been the biggest personal transformation for you since you discovered Bitcoin? Not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually.
I just think I have so much less anxiety.
Mhm.
And I think it's something that we discussed when we were talking about it on when you were on my show
Yeah.
was mind blowing to me too, because I think we were talking about how Bitcoin heals you. And I think
Mhm.
that because I have less anxiety and I don't worry about things I used to worry about, I'm not consumed by the distractions I used to be consumed by. And when you don't have that level of anxiety, that I think they say that one of the medications that's most prescribed, maybe not in the world, but in the US, is
Mhm.
anti-anxiety
Yeah.
medication. So when you think about how many people are on anti-anxiety medication, there's so many people in the world that have anxiety, especially in the US. And it's scary because anxiety causes stress in the body, and stress causes sickness in the body, and inflammation causes, like, every sickness, you're a doctor, comes from
Yeah.
inflammation. So I think when
Yeah.
we were discussing, we
Mm.
had this crazy idea that Bitcoin heals you in that way.
Yeah, I love hearing your story of personal transformation and healing anxiety because it just showcases how Bitcoin is just so much bigger than just money. It spills over into your entire soul, your entire life force, and changes your life trajectory and your relationships and your the chemicals in your body. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even thinking about how when we were talking about even the food, it's because your idea of how you've been lied to, just like how you felt when you realized in your career the incentives in the system that you work for and the medical industry and the food industry, and how it's all these ideas that are pushed on you to say that it's for the best of the people, but it's really for the best of the company or corporation
Mm.
to benefit from growing and making money off of the people. It's not really for the benefit of actually us. And that's such a mind shift that I think Bitcoin teaches you to look at the rest of the world and what are the incentives of other parts of your life. So that's why I
Mhm.
think you start to not be gullible in other areas of your life. And that's very empowering.
So if someone listening to this is feeling stuck, depressed, or hopeless about the future, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that they really need to think about why this problem is happening because there is a reason. It's
Mm.
not just the way life should be. This isn't just something that you can't control. You can do something about it and you could figure out why life is getting so expensive. There is a reason for it. The money is broken. Just start to
Mm.
learn what
Mhm.
inflation is and what money really is. And money represents the time you spend working. And when someone is stealing that from you, it's really important to learn why that matters and why that should matter
Mhm.
to you and your family and your kids. And it might be something that people don't want to spend the time to do. And, maybe they don't think it matters, but it really is the most important technological, not even technological, it's a revolution and it's a protocol like the internet was, and it's changing and reshaping the whole world in front of us. So I heard somebody say this once, and this is what I would like to say is that if you hear this video or you hear this podcast, I heard John Fakuri say it before, and he is an incredible, a pretty early Bitcoiner, but he said if you've heard me talk about Bitcoin, that's my way of trying to say I love you. So I love that he said that, and I think that if anyone hears this, we're doing it because we care and we want
Right.
others to feel the same way that we feel, and we don't want to see other people stuck. We want to, so that's us doing this is because we care about humanity. We're sharing our views and our ideas because we want other people to understand that there's a way out.
Yeah, that was beautifully said. Is there anything else that you wanted
Thank
to
you.
add?
No, I think that's
Okay.
pretty good. I thought this episode was incredible.
Yeah.
You really run these podcasts great. You're so intuitive and you really have a feel for your guests. And I love how you had a really great intro describing me and your other guests. And you're doing an incredible job. So I'm so happy you're doing this.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And yeah, thank you for being my inspiration. And where can people find you?
So you can find me on X. They're posting constantly, XSTAC1. That's my handle. And then on my podcast, it's the Bitcoin Nova. It's on pretty much any platform, YouTube, Rumble, and all the podcast channels that you might use. So just look up the Bitcoin Nova and you can find me there.
Yeah, definitely check out Bitcoin Nova if you guys haven't seen it. It's an incredible podcast. She's got incredible information, incredible guests. And yeah, let's keep in touch and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me. Keep up the good work.
of course. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode of The Signal. In a world drowning in noise, signal is everything. Most people are overwhelmed, distracted, and deceived, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've lost the ability to discern what truly matters. But signal cuts through the noise. And Bitcoin is pure signal. It doesn't promise, it doesn't lie, it doesn't bend to opinion or propaganda. It just is. And as the world descends into even more chaos, distraction, and distortion, your ability to identify signal, to recognize what's real, true, and timeless will be one of your greatest assets. So stay sharp, stay sovereign, stay tuned, because here on The Signal, we don't follow trends, we follow truth. I'm Dr. Satoshi, and in a world of noise, we are the signal.